like from program policies. Again, all of these are in your training manual. You don't necessarily need to follow along. They're pretty intuitive, but if you have any questions, please raise them. But we'll start with program policies and move into mandated reporting. So child safety from the Books for Keeps side, the aspects that we've put in place is consider educational status to be strictly confidential. It's not often that you would have your students' individual grades or assessment data, but just understanding that is still your little person's identity and they're in school and handling that and discussing that respectfully, if at all. No cash or monetary value gifts. We don't want a student's experience in the program to be compared or changed by if they received a gift and someone didn't, vice versa. Which we'll get to it at the end, or towards the end, you do a little all about me sheet during your first visit. On it, it has their birthday. A lot of times mentors are interested in doing something for their birthday. I definitely encourage any sort of handmade card or aspects in that way. We are trying to build out more of a little library. It would be all used books, or at least it is right now, of books that you could come by our office and choose one out for your student that they may enjoy if you're interested in doing that, rather than a gift of your own, just kind of keeping the main focus around the program. Being respectful of physical boundaries. What that looks like is, one, the hard boundary of no lap sitting. There's not many places in the school conducive to that, but that would be the hard boundary for any physical contact. The rest, you can follow your student's lead. It would just be not initiating any sort of hugs or hand holding or different things. Children at this age are very affectionate, and so it's not uncommon that they may initiate something like that. If you're comfortable with it, that is okay. Just make sure you're following your student's lead and only doing something if you're comfortable with it as well, listening to your own thoughts. Your mentoring relationship is school-based, and so what that means is there's nothing required of you outside of your 30 minutes to an hour at the school. So you won't have any, it's down there, I think, yeah, no personal details, not exchanging phone numbers, email, social media of the student or of the parent. It's just you and your student for that block of time. You want to respect your time as much as possible. Open door policy, I know it's kind of funny that it's in air or quotations, but what that looks like is we used to meet in the home base is a classroom that we originally said the rule is that it's open. We're learning and growing in our program. We've learned it's very loud and it is actually not possible to do with the door open. So there's what we mean by our open door policy. The way we've clarified it further is that we will show you all of the different places that you are more than welcome to meet with your student. And so what we mean by open door policy at that point is only meeting in places that have been approved or shown to you by the Books for Keeps program. And that's for a few reasons. Obviously, just not wanting to be in spaces that are not appropriate or comfortable for your student and yourself, but also if teachers or myself need to find you, we know the few places that we can go to. No photos of your mentee. So I think I forgot it actually, sorry. We ask that you don't take any photos of your student. That's to respect their privacy. Staff will oftentimes be taking photos. We know the students that have the media releases on file. And so we try to, at the end of the year, everyone gets a little frame you get to decorate. We'll have things to commemorate your experience and your student. You can brag on to your friends and family that I'm sure they'll get to hear some about your student, but we just ask that that's done by the program and not yourself. Okay, so we're going to move to mandated reporting. Is anyone already familiar with mandated reporting or in positions where they're already a mandated reporter? Yeah, okay. So a few people there, we're going to still go through it all. Mandated reporting is, I'll put it on the slide while I'm talking about it, but being a literacy mentor in any other program that you're volunteering to work with children puts you in the position that you are a mandated reporter. And so what that means is that if you have any reason to suspect any sort of abuse or neglect, that you are required by the state to report it. And so we'll go through what that looks like and what that means, but the areas of suspected abuse can be physical abuse if there's physical harm to the student that you may notice like with visually yourself, or if they disclose anything like that to you. Neglect, emotional abuse, or sexual abuse. All of these things can be things that you've observed in a way that they're acting that raises any sort of suspicion, or it could be they've disclosed something that is either explicitly something that's concerning or alludes to something that may feel concerning. Anything that gives you pause is really how I would describe it, and it's better to kind of err on that side of caution. So what reporting it looks like to you is just telling school admin. So if you have any sort of interaction that gives you this pause feeling of like, that just didn't sit right with me, what you'll do is go to the front office and you'll ask to speak to the school counselor. They will know where she is in the building. She is always around. If she's not available, they will appoint you to a different school admin. That is also A-OK, whoever they identify. You would then report all of the details of the interaction or disclosure to them. And afterwards, we just ask that we'll show you, we have a mentor portal, that you just let us know that there was a report that was made. You don't need to go into all the details for us. That's just connecting you with the school if you need to. But once you've told the school, that is you having done your duty as a mandated reporter. The school will then decide what they need to do, if anything, with the information you've provided. I say err on the side of caution of it's not an inherently bad thing to share this information. The school, Stroud specifically, does a great job being a resource hub in the community for families. So a lot of them will already have some sort of idea if their students or the students and then the students' families have a lack of resources, and this may just kind of more further complete that photo for them. I want to emphasize as well, this hasn't happened often. This is just wanting you guys to know what you are required to do while working with children. So the do's and the don'ts, do let the child talk, show that you care. A lot of times if a student is inherently or explicitly disclosing this to you, it would take a lot of courage. This is something that's scary and hard for them. Do report it to the counselor as soon as possible, even if unsure. And do acknowledge your feelings. It can be squidgy and feel weird and uncomfortable. I'm always here to talk to. I know you all also have your support systems. If you'd like to appropriately and respectfully share about the situation, please rely on whoever feels comfortable in that time. Don't probe or investigate further. There is no baseline for information that you need to have to share with the school. Like it's like even just a squidgy feeling you can share with them. You don't need to have any baseline of facts. Don't make the report yourself without consulting the school or Books for Keeps. And that's mostly, it is a whole can of worms to even begin to make the report. Just rely on the people who it's their job to make it happen. Any questions so far with that? Okay, the only difference would be is if the student is reporting that they are having thoughts of self-harm or harming others. And so the only difference then would be that instead of waiting until the end of your visit with your student, it would then be immediate. So you would then say, okay, let's transition, and doing your best without raising alarm, right? We know heavy topics there can be negative effects long-term of being shut down when you're trying to express something vulnerable. But casually ending the session, there's a few ways you could do that. Taking your student back to the classroom, that is A-OK. If that is a predictable environment, we'll talk more about that. But if they need to just go back, it does not need to be a punitive thing of just, okay, well, they don't want to say, like, sound demeaning when I say this, but they don't have, like, the strongest concept of time. So, like, if you don't say we're ending early, they may not know, like, just kind of like, okay, let's wrap up. Or you can take the student with you to go to the office and talk about it. Say, okay, let's go talk to, the counselor's name is Miss Peace, very appropriately. Let's go talk to Miss Peace about what you're sharing with me, and let's dive more into that. Just whatever feels appropriate in the situation. At this point, you'll know your student and you know what would feel supportive to them. The main thing is just not leaving your mentee alone and making that report as soon as possible. Some resources for this. I know I am really just touching on the tip of the iceberg with this. Georgia offers a free mandated reporting training, fully virtual. It's pretty interactive as well. It talks more about what to look for, I guess not what to look for, but kind of what to look for in terms of those 4 different categories of abuse that we talked about, what could be signs of that versus the student just hadn't had breakfast, like different kind of common perceptions or misperceptions. And there's also the Georgia mandated reporting law, details much more in depth, but that may not be as applicable as your duty would be fulfilled just by sharing with the school. And then our mandated reporting policy is in your training manual for you. This is where I like to remind you that you are going to be an adult that students will want to talk about things in their lives with, but they all have many other adults, right? You are just a piece of this support network. You don't have to be everything to your student. You are just one of the many supporting them in their way. Any questions about mandated reporting? Okay. There we go. Okay, so we're going to move into effectively engaging as a mentor, what that's looking like of some of just what are the goals as a mentor in this component. The literacy goals are maybe more explicit and understandable, but what is this kind of vague idea of mentoring and how can we do it well? And so we'll start with a little breakout, just kind of if you want to do 2 or 3, just someone near you at your table and talking through, when you think of someone in your life that has mentored you, what do you think of? Was that an informal mentor, someone in your neighborhood that looked out for you? Were you in a formal mentoring program? And what about that person continues to permeate your mind these days? What characteristics do they have? How did they make you feel? What did they do that made you feel that way? And what were some of the things they maybe didn't do that made a positive impact? So we'll break up for about 3 minutes and I'll call you all back.